Mommies of the internet, tell us what's on your mind this week. Why don't husbands get it? Every mom knows timing is everything with a baby. I carefully plan each grocery trip around nap schedules, trying to avoid the nightmare of shopping with a cranky little one. But today really tested my patience. Picture this. I'm racing against the clock to get everything ready. In just 45 minutes, I managed to get myself dressed, prepare the baby, pack the diaper bag, and even take the dogs out. Meanwhile, my husband, he's spending that entire time in the bathroom, claiming it's his only chance to take a dump. Don't get me wrong, I understand he's had a long week. That's why I let him nap in peace. That's why I don't bug him about the unfolded laundry. I try to be considerate of his needs. But when he finally emerges from the bathroom, he has the nerve to ask why I'm cranky. Seriously? Maybe it's the postpartum hormones talking, but I just want him to understand. I want him to get why timing matters so much with a baby. Why can't he see how hard I'm working to keep everything running smoothly? Some days I wonder if any husband truly gets it. Story 2. An unexpected journey after childbirth. I need to share my story, not to frighten anyone, but to reach out to others who might have had a similar experience. It started on October 5th, the day my son was born. I had opted for an epidural, like many mothers do. The procedure began normally enough. A female anesthesiologist came in, introduced herself, and explained how I should position myself. But then something unexpected happened. I heard a male voice behind me, someone who hadn't been there before. The doctor quickly mentioned that her resident would be assisting with the procedure. As they began with the freezing needle, I could hear concerning exchanges between them. The doctor kept correcting the resident. "No, not like that. Take it out and restart. No, not that angle." Those words sent chills through me, but eventually they seemed to get it right. Or so I thought. 3 hours after giving birth, something felt off. While most of my body, including my right leg, had regained feeling, my left leg remained completely numb. The reality of the situation hit me, quite literally, when I tried to use the bathroom. I collapsed through the hospital curtain, falling flat on my back in the postpartum room. When I raised concerns, my postpartum doctor assured me it was just lingering epidural medication that would wear off by the next day. But it didn't. The situation grew more complicated when I was hospitalized for preeclampsia. During my 5-day stay, a different anesthesiologist examined me. His diagnosis? Possible femoral nerve damage, perhaps from having my leg compressed during delivery. The numbness stretched from my hip all the way to my ankle. His prescription was simple: physical therapy and patience. In that first week after birth, I fell 4 times. There was a small improvement when the numbness retreated from my hip to just above my knee. But despite trying everything, acupuncture, massage, chiropractic care, physical therapy, nothing seemed to help. Each practitioner pointed to possible L4 nerve damage from the epidural. Now my OBGYN is working to arrange a neurological consultation and MRI, though the timeline remains uncertain. My baby is approaching 5 weeks old, and I still can't walk properly. What makes this even more frightening is hearing from medical professionals that they've never encountered a case quite like mine. I'm sharing this story while searching for 3 things: advice, support, and perhaps others who've walked this difficult path before me. Story 3. Today should have been special. It's Veterans Day, and I'm proud to be a veteran myself. My husband, who works for the government, had the day off, so we planned to run some errands together. Everything seemed fine at first. But then, during our lunch break, when I suggested moving on to our next stop, his response caught me off guard. "No," he said. "This took longer than I thought. I want to go home." When I explained that I still needed to complete the planned errands, his words hit me like a punch to the gut. "This is my off day," he complained, as if his weekends weren't already free. But what really stung was what came next. "You get to chill every day." Chill? With a 4-month-old baby? I had to laugh at that one. The truth is, I'd give anything some days to be back at work, talking with other adults. These past 4 months have been anything but chill. they've been a nonstop whirlwind of baby care, household duties, and endless responsibilities. When I suggested he could head home and watch the baby while I finished the errands, his response was quick. No, take her with you. Just like that, dismissing all the work that goes into taking care of our daughter. I'm still trying to process how much this hurt. Here I am, giving everything I have to our family, and he thinks I'm just relaxing all day? How can he not see all the work, all the effort, all the love that goes into being a stay-at-home mom? It's not just about today's errands anymore. It's about feeling seen and appreciated for all the work I do. Work that never really stops, not even on holidays. Story 4. Let me share something amazing with you. My 5-year-old, who hadn't gained any weight for an entire year, has put on almost 4 pounds in just 5 months of feeding therapy. As a parent who's walked this path, I want to share these game-changing insights with other families dealing with picky eating and ARFID. The yogurt bar revolution. Let's start with my absolute favorite technique, the yogurt bar. Picture this. A bowl of plain, unsweetened yogurt becomes a canvas for creativity. Here's the magic. You offer a mix of toppings, from absolute favorites to less loved options. In our case, we use everything from sprinkles and crushed Oreos to granola and finely minced fruit. My son, who normally won't touch fruit except for the occasional apple slice, actually experiments with these new flavors when he's in control of the mixing. It becomes less about eating and more about creating a colorful potion. And what child doesn't love that? The sensory approach. Here's something fascinating we learned in therapy. They use a small vibrating tool to prepare children for new textures. You can actually try this at home with a vibrating toothbrush. Gently touch it to the inside of their cheeks and tongue, then talk about how it feels. This creates a bridge to discussing new food textures. Making food exploration fun. In therapy, they've taught us to turn eating into an adventure of discovery. Take a blueberry, for instance. First, we examine it like little scientists. Then we might gently squish it with a finger or spoon. Look at that juice coming out, we'll say. I wonder if it'll feel just as juicy in our mouth. Suddenly, eating becomes an experiment rather than a challenge. The power of words. Here's a crucial tip. We've learned to avoid the word eat. It sounds strange, but that simple word can carry so much pressure. Instead, we use gentler invitations like try, taste, or even playful phrases like give it a kiss. Speaking of kisses, when my son wants to leave the table after barely touching his food, asking him to kiss his food goodbye often leads to him taking a few more bites. Creating a positive environment. Getting kids involved in meal prep can make a huge difference, though I'll be honest, this hasn't worked miracles with my son. But don't let that discourage you. Every child is different, and what matters is finding what works for yours. Simple but effective strategies. Don't underestimate the power of dips and sauces. As someone who rarely uses dips myself, I was surprised to learn how a simple side of ranch dressing can make unfamiliar vegetables more approachable. And presentation matters too. Even a basic smiley face arrangement can transform a scary new food into something inviting. The importance of active engagement. Let me be real with you. This journey requires constant engagement. Even though my son is 5, I can't just sit back during meals. I'm always there, encouraging and using what we've learned in therapy. Look how much your sister's enjoying the zucchini. Or, I added a bit of cheese to this. Want to see if you can taste it? Yes, he might only take the tiniest bite and still say he doesn't like it, but that's progress. Before therapy, he wouldn't even allow vegetables on his plate. Remember, every small step forward is a victory. My son still takes microscopic bites of new foods and often decides he doesn't like them. But the fact that he's willing to try it all is huge progress from where we started. Keep celebrating these small wins and know that you're not alone on this journey. Story 5. You know those childhood memories that suddenly hit different when you're a parent yourself? I just had one of those moments today. I can still picture it so clearly. Being a kid, trapped in the grocery store while my mom chatted endlessly with someone she knew. I'd stand there shifting from foot to foot, wondering how anyone could possibly have so much to say about nothing. Those conversations felt like they lasted forever. Well, today the tables turned. There I was, in that same grocery store situation, but now I'm the mom. My 15-month-old was with me when I ran into a family friend. And you know what? I found myself doing exactly what my mom used to do. Standing there, talking, catching up, letting the conversation stretch on. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just small talk. This was my first adult conversation since 7 o'clock this morning. I hadn't even realized how starved I was for grown-up interaction until that moment in the grocery store. Mom, I finally get it. Those grocery store conversations weren't about the conversations at all. They were your moments of connection in a day full of child-focused everything. Sorry for all the eye rolls and dramatic sighs, Mom. I understand now. Story 6. I'm 30, married for 8 years, with a beautiful 7-year-old child, and in 3 months my husband is likely going to jail. But the truth that's been hardest to face? I'm not sad about it anymore. The revelation about his past came last year. Before we met, he had abused another woman, something that apparently stopped shortly after we got together. The trial is set for early next year, and it shattered the image I had of him as this great, understanding, kind man who never raised a hand to me. Looking back now, I can see the cracks that were always there. When our child was born, I spent 3 days alone in the hospital because he needed to rest for work. Sure, he took some time off when we came home, but that was the beginning of a pattern. Somehow all the childcare, diaper changes, cooking, and cleaning fell on my shoulders. His excuse? He was just bad at it all. At first, it seemed easier to do everything myself than to constantly ask for help. Now I realize how that quiet acceptance slowly drained me. The darkest time came with my postpartum depression. We lived outside of town, and I became isolated from everyone. It got so bad that I attempted suicide. Where was he? Out partying with friends. Eventually, the partying stopped, but only because he emotionally checked out of our lives completely. These days, he works late nights, leaving me to handle everything with our 7-year-old, from breakfast to school runs, cleaning to cooking, shopping to emotional support. I had to leave my job because of the stress from all this upheaval, yet I'm still expected to carry on with all the unpaid labor at home. I've stopped asking for help. I've stopped hoping for change. The years of emotional neglect and ignored responsibilities have left a wound I don't think will heal. Now he's constantly medicated with weed, barely present, using the stress of his upcoming trial as a shield against any real conversation. When I try to express my frustration and resentment, his responses are predictable. That's not me anymore. Or, my life is about to be ruined, and you want to tell me what else I did wrong. He refuses therapy, insisting he doesn't need it. The truth is, if he goes to jail, I don't think I'll be waiting when he gets out. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I'm also clearer than I've ever been about what I need to do. For now, I'm biding my time, not wanting to abandon him right before his trial. But I know this isn't the life I want anymore. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the leaving, it's admitting to yourself that you need to go. Story 7. We all hope our partners will be there in sickness and in health, but sometimes it takes a stomach bug to show you what that really means. Last night was perfect, a date night while our kids stayed with their grandparents. We had plans to go grocery shopping today. You know, normal weekend stuff. But this morning, everything changed when I woke up to what felt like the stomach bug from hell. Fever, dizziness, and the kind of pain that makes you question every life choice. There I was, stumbling from the bathroom back to our bedroom, when it hit me again. Thank goodness for that empty decluttering bag in the room. And that's when my husband showed me exactly why I married him. He was awake in an instant. Before I could even process what was happening, he had gathered my hair into a ponytail and was guiding me back to bed. What followed was a masterclass in loving care. He let me sleep, really sleep, all day long. The only interruptions were gentle offerings of Gatorade and ice cream, exactly what I needed. But here's what really got me. When he needed to eat, he got his food and ate it in the restaurant parking lot. Why? Because he didn't want the smell to disturb my rest. Who thinks like that? My husband does. When our kids came home, he transformed into a human shield. He kept them from their usual jump-on-mom routine, cleaned the house, did the dishes, and even managed to get the grocery shopping done through curbside pickup. That's not just being a good husband. That's being an exceptional human being. That's love in action. And that's why, even with this awful stomach bug, I can't help but smile. That's how you husband, and that's why I love him. Story 8. They say home is where you can always go back to. But sometimes, even that door starts closing faster than you expected. It's been a month since I made the hardest decision of my life, leaving my husband. When I first told my mother about my struggles, she offered her home as a safe haven. It seemed like the perfect temporary solution while I searched for a new place for myself and my 2 children. The reality? It's turning into its own kind of heartbreak. We're trying to be as unobtrusive as possible in her big house. My kids and I share a single bedroom. I clean constantly. I buy groceries for everyone. I've even planned to contribute to the utilities. I never ask her to watch the children. I know that's not her responsibility, but it's not enough. The sound of children being children is too much for her. She wants her peace back, she says. Her solution? Either find a place immediately or return to my husband. As if leaving an unhealthy marriage was just a whim that I can easily reverse. Thanks for your help, Mom. The words taste bitter in my mouth. Because what kind of help comes with an ultimatum? What kind of support crumbles when you need it most? I'm already carrying the weight of my decision to leave, already frantically searching for a new home, already trying to keep my children's world from falling apart. And now I have to carry this too, the knowledge that even my mother's house isn't really a safe harbor. They say when one door closes, another opens. But right now, all I can think about is how hard it is to find that next door when you're being pushed out of the one you thought would always be open. Story 9. You know how some days start out so promising? There I was, heading to Target with my 22-month-old, feeling pretty confident. After all, she's usually my well-behaved shopping buddy, so different from taking her 4-year-old sister. But halfway through our trip, everything changed. The meltdown started out of nowhere. We weren't even close to nap time, a whole hour away. And suddenly, my usually cheerful toddler transformed into a tiny tornado of emotion. I tried every trick in the mom playbook. Ms. Rachel videos? Check. Random toys from my magical mom bag? Check. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could stop the screeching. The kind of screeching that makes you want to disappear into the floor tiles. By this point, I just wanted out. With only 7 or 8 items in my cart, I figured a cashier would be faster than wrestling with self-checkout while managing a flailing toddler. That's when things went from difficult to devastating. The young cashier, possibly non-binary, took one look at us, and their face said it all. You know that look, the one that screams, "Oh great, another entitled mom who won't abandon her cart when her child is having a meltdown." They wouldn't even make eye contact with me. And then came the kicker. After handing me my receipt with the most judgmental look imaginable, they said, "I'll pray for you." Those words felt like ice water down my back. The contrast was stark. Other moms in the store got it. They flashed those knowing smiles that said, "2-year-olds, am I right?" Even the ones shopping alone, you could see the understanding in their eyes. They'd been there. They knew. I managed to keep it together until I got to the car. Then the tears came. Because it's not just about dealing with a toddler's mysterious meltdown. That's hard enough. It's about feeling judged, feeling like a failure, feeling like you're somehow wrong for simply trying to finish your shopping while your child works through their big feelings. Sometimes the hardest part of parenting isn't the tantrums. It's facing the judgment of people who've forgotten what it's like to be small or to care for someone so small. Or maybe they never knew at all. Story 10. Let me share a story from just this morning, 4 a.m. to be exact. There I was, taking over from my exhausted husband who'd been up since our sick daughter vomited in her bed. He'd tried the usual route: Netflix on, clean sheets, meeting endless toddler demands. By 5 a.m., he was done. I walked into our living room to find an all-too-familiar scene. Wide-awake toddler, random Netflix show, and that dreaded realization that simply turning off the TV would unleash chaos that would wake the whole house. But over many sleepless nights, I've developed a strategy that actually works. Let me share it with you. The secret is in the transition first step, the accidental channel change. I deliberately switched away from Netflix for a moment, then quickly fixed it when she complained. This sets the stage for more changes to come. Next came the stealth adjustment. TV brightness down to 0%, volume to barely their level 5. Then back to her show, but now much dimmer and quieter. Quick note, don't expect this alone to work magic. I've spent many desperate nights learning that lesson. While she was still watching, I brought out the comfort arsenal, pillow and blanket. Getting cozy is key to what comes next. The art of the swap. Here's where it gets strategic. After a few minutes of dim, quiet Netflix, I switched to YouTube, specifically someone playing Palia. Choose something boring here. Watching someone customize their game character worked perfectly. When she complained, and she will, I gave in to her protests and changed the video again, this time to something even more relaxing, a painting video. Pro tip, let that opening ad play. It creates a perfect buffer between the exciting Netflix show and the calming content to come. The magic list. For fellow tired parents, let me share my go-to YouTube solutions, all kept at minimum brightness and volume. I've found great success with Serena Art's painting videos. They're absolutely mesmerizing. When those don't work, I switch to those soothing clay teapot ASMR videos that somehow capture even the most resistant little eyes. Mandala sand art videos have their own special magic too. On particularly challenging nights, I turn to those gentle zoo bedtime stories. You know the ones, where they softly say goodnight to all the animals, one by one. And when all else fails, I've discovered that even Curious George can work his sleepy time magic in the right circumstances. The key is getting them snuggled on the couch while playing these calming videos and giving them some gentle back rubs. If they're truly tired, sleep often comes surprisingly quickly. In our case, about 10 minutes. A note of grace. Look, is this the right way to get your child to sleep? Probably not. And yes, there are probably moms out there with more stamina who've found better solutions. But here's what I know. Sometimes getting your child and yourself to sleep is more important than doing everything by the book. I'm sharing this because I remember those nights of desperately searching the internet for answers. Sometimes we need permission to be imperfect, to choose what works over what's right. When the alternative is passing out on the couch while your toddler binges Paw Patrol until dawn, a strategic TV dimming operation starts looking pretty good. To all you exhausted moms out there searching for answers at 4 a.m., it's okay. You're doing your best, and that's enough. May you find the sleep solution that works for your family, even if it's not the one in the parenting books. Sweet dreams, fellow tired mamas. Here's hoping we all get some rest soon. Story 11. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones we make after years of trying to make things work. That's where I find myself today, finally saying out loud what I've known in my heart for a while now. I'm done with church. Living in rural America, church isn't just about Sunday worship. It's the center of community life, the hub of social connections, often the only gathering place for miles around. When you have a large family like mine, walking away from that isn't a small decision. We've been down this road before. A few years ago, we left one church when things got too intense. This new one seemed promising at first. They used all the right words: welcoming, progressive, inclusive. But beneath that welcoming facade, it's just more of the same rigid thinking, the same harsh judgments, the same narrow view of the world. What breaks my heart most is watching what this environment does to my children. They're being taught to view the world through a lens of fear and hatred, to see everything in stark black and white. They're learning that anything different is dangerous, that there's no room for questions, for complexity, for showing mercy to those who don't fit the mold. But in 2 months, everything changes. We're leaving the Midwest for the Northeast, and with that move comes the chance to redefine what community means for our family. I'm done trying to force ourselves into spaces that demand we shrink our hearts and minds to fit their boundaries. This time, we're looking beyond church walls for our sense of belonging. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do for your family is to walk away from what's familiar and toward what's right. It's not just about being done with church. It's about being ready for something better. Story 12th. Let me tell you about a day that still makes my heart race when I think about it. My 9-year-old son has a severe tree nut allergy. We learned just how severe last year when he had his first anaphylactic reaction. He's also autistic with selective mutism, which means he struggles to speak up in unfamiliar social situations. These 2 facts about my son aren't just medical details. They're vital information that everyone who cares for him needs to understand and take seriously. It started innocently enough. My sister-in-law invited our kids to play with her child at her parents' house. Since we had an errand to run with our daughter, we dropped our son off, never imagining we were leaving him in danger. During his visit, they served food containing pesto. Nobody checked the label. Not my sister-in-law who made it, not my in-laws who served it. What makes this even more frustrating is that I had specifically warned them about pesto containing tree nuts, both in person and in writing, just months ago when they were watching our kids over summer. My son, surrounded by unfamiliar people and unable to speak up due to his selective mutism, felt his throat getting scratchy after eating but couldn't tell anyone. He suffered in silence. When we returned, my mother-in-law casually mentioned the pesto dish. My heart stopped. "Our son didn't eat that, right?" I asked, knowing pesto usually contains tree nuts. Her response chills me to this day. "Oh yeah, he had it, but he's fine." Then she glanced at the jar and added, almost dismissively, "Oh, cashews are listed here, who would have thought?" I rushed to check on my son, who finally told me about his scratchy throat. My father-in-law's response? It was just a small amount. As if the amount somehow made it safer. By then, it had been over an hour since he'd eaten it. While I was frantically trying to decide what to do, my sister-in-law continued drinking and socializing, seemingly oblivious to the emergency unfolding. When hives appeared on his face, I raced to get Benadryl, desperately trying to reach our doctor's after-hours line while consulting with a pharmacist. Through all of this, my in-laws kept minimizing the situation, repeating that he hadn't eaten much, changing the subject as if this wasn't a potentially life-threatening situation. By the time we got home, his eye was swelling. Thank goodness for our neighbor, a nurse, who came over immediately to help us monitor him through the night. What hurts the most isn't just that this happened. Mistakes can happen, even serious ones. It's the complete lack of acknowledgement or apology for putting my child in danger. How do you shrug off potentially endangering your grandchild? How do you not even say, "I'm sorry"? The incident is over, but the trust is broken. Because when it comes to our children's safety, I didn't know stops being an acceptable excuse when you've been told. And it wasn't much. Stops being comforting when any amount could be dangerous. Story 13. Let me tell you about a conversation that just shattered my heart. My baby turns 1 this week, and like any first-time mom, I've been looking back on this journey. But this hasn't been just any journey. It's been a battle for survival. Picture this. A difficult pregnancy that ended in an emergency C-section. A newborn who cried through every waking moment for 6 months straight due to digestive issues, leaving my career to become a stay-at-home mom. My whole world didn't just change. It exploded and reformed into something completely unrecognizable. Then there was the postpartum depression. God, it hit me like a tsunami, forcing me to finally confront the depression I'd been carrying since my teenage years. This wasn't just baby blues. This was darkness with teeth. So there we were, my husband and I, reflecting on this monumental year. I opened up to him, really opened up. about how proud I am of myself for surviving. Because there were moments, real, terrifying moments, when I truly didn't think I would make it through. Do you know what that feels like? To look back at those dark days and realize you made it, despite everything? And then, after telling me he never even noticed I was struggling that much, my husband drops this bomb. "I don't feel like you enjoy being a mom." Those words. Those devastating words. How do you respond to that? How do you explain that survival doesn't always look pretty? That sometimes loving your child with every fiber of your being doesn't translate into picture-perfect motherhood moments? That you can simultaneously be drowning and still desperately swimming to shore? Because here's the truth. I love my son more than anything in this world. Being his mother is the greatest gift I've ever received. But this year was fucking hard. And maybe my struggle to stay alive didn't look like maternal bliss to my husband, but I fought through every dark day to be here for our son. Sometimes love doesn't look like joy. Sometimes it looks like getting up every morning when your brain is telling you not to. Sometimes it looks like changing diapers through tears. Sometimes it looks like surviving. I survived. I'm here. And I love being a mom, even when, especially when, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Story 14. Let me share something that's been weighing heavily on my heart. My husband and I have what most would consider a healthy physical relationship. We're intimate 3 to 4 times a week, even as busy parents approaching 40. But lately, it feels like I'm drowning in requests that make me deeply uncomfortable. It wasn't always like this. When we first started dating, our relationship felt balanced and mutual, but over the past year and a half, everything has shifted. My husband has become fixated on what he calls being bad. He wants to post intimate photos of me on NSFW Reddit groups. He pushes for exhibitionist activities, nude clubs, nude beaches, even suggested I join websites like Feet Finder. He's into role-playing scenarios where I pretend to be with other men. I've made my boundaries crystal clear. None of this interests me, not even a little. But the requests keep coming, relentless as waves against a shore. Maybe some would call me boring. Maybe others would embrace these adventures. But that's not who I am, and I've never pretended to be otherwise. Yet somehow, I'm the one feeling guilty, as if having regular intimate moments with my husband isn't enough anymore. The constant pressure is changing how I feel about intimacy altogether. I find myself dreading his advances, knowing they might come with another unwanted request. It's gotten so bad that I actually feel relief during my period, 9 days of respite thanks to my endometriosis, 9 days without being hounded for things I don't want to do. I keep wondering, am I wrong for not wanting this? Should I feel guilty for having boundaries? But then I think about how this pressure makes me feel. Uncomfortable, anxious, inadequate. And I know in my heart that these feelings aren't what a loving relationship should produce. The worst part isn't even the requests themselves anymore. It's the way they've transformed something that should be about mutual love and respect into a source of anxiety and guilt. Every rejection feels like I'm disappointing him, yet every request feels like he's disappointing me by not respecting my clearly stated boundaries. This isn't about being adventurous or boring, open-minded or prudish. This is about respect. Respect for boundaries, respect for comfort levels, respect for the word no. Because no shouldn't be the start of a negotiation. It should be the end of the discussion. Story 15. The first steps of independence. It's amazing how the hardest moments of parenting aren't always the big dramatic ones. Sometimes they're these quiet little decisions that make your heart ache. Just last weekend, my 19-year-old daughter moved out. My husband and I helped her pack, watched her settle into this adorable little casita with a shared kitchen and laundry. She was beaming with happiness, and we were genuinely thrilled for her. This was exactly what she wanted, exactly what she was ready for. Then life threw us a curveball. 2 days after moving out, she got sick enough to need a hospital visit. Of course, I rushed her there, waited with her, made sure she got her antibiotics. Yesterday, I brought her the broth she requested and was relieved to see her looking better. Her fever gone, her color back to normal. Just tired, as anyone would be while healing. This morning, though, that's when it hit me. This new territory of letting go. She called, asking me to drive over and bring her to our house so she could take a bath, since her place only has a shower. When I asked if she wasn't feeling well enough to drive, she admitted she felt fine. She just didn't want to make the drive herself. That's when I did one of the hardest things a mother can do. I encouraged her to be independent. I told her she was welcome to drive over herself, take that bath, get some mommy pampering, and then head back to her place. Logically, I know this was the right call. She's feeling better, she's capable of driving, and part of supporting her independence means letting her do things for herself, even when she's not feeling 100%. But oh, my heart. My mother's heart that just wants to rush over, scoop her up, and take care of everything. Every instinct screams to just go get her, to make everything easier, to shield her from even the smallest discomfort. This is the part of motherhood they don't prepare you for. The constant balance between what your heart wants to do and what you know your child needs. The guilt that comes with choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. I keep reminding myself that love sometimes means stepping back, that independence grows stronger when tested, that my daughter needs to learn she can take care of herself even on the not-so-great days, but knowing all that doesn't make it any easier on my heart. Please comment below if you'd like to add anything to any of these mommy stories. Thank you.